So you've participated in multiple accelerator programs, plug-in ventures, Harvard iLabs, HBCU Founders Initiative. What were some of the lessons that you learned from there about scaling health-focused startups?
hmm Yeah, I learned so much over the past 2 years, man. I would say I've still been in school for the past 2 years. So I was in graduate school formally, 2020 to 2022, Masters of Public Health. 2023, really January 2023 to at the end of last year, 2024, um, or at the end of last year, so December 2024, I was in an accelerator program the whole time. Early on, I applied to maybe 20 plus venture capital firms, right, to raise some money. All of them said no if they even responded. And so I made a strategic shift to apply to accelerator and incubator programs. And so for those who don't know, these are basically boot camps for startups. So, a lot of founders who come up with ideas have never built a startup, let alone a company. And so there are a lot of things that we need to learn, and these programs help you learn those things without making the same or having to learn from your mistakes. That's the greatest value that I get from these. Most of the time, they come with some money, so $10,000 here, $20,000 here, and in the early days, especially when you're so dependent on external funding, it's really valuable. But the most value that I've gotten out of them is the access to the networks that I have now, and so when I do want to go raise real money for the company, I can reach out to this network to say, hey, this is the stage that we're at. They also have been following our journey for years now, but it still is hard work. I applied to probably 120 startup accelerator and incubator programs over the past 2 years. And I don't, there may be some other people that have applied to that many programs, but when I talk to friends and they ask me like, how am I continuing to have so much success with raising money in these programs? And it really just comes down to numbers. I mean, I think we have a decent idea and it's interesting enough to certain organizations, but if I only applied to 5 or if I only applied to 10, maybe I get into 1 or 2. But my job is to give myself the best chance at reaching the success that I want. And so I applied to as many programs as I could. And we've been able to raise little over $500,000 over the past 2 years through that. And haven't really given up much of the company as since we've done it through these grant focused programs. And so, yeah, I've done a ton. But the biggest learning as far as like how to scale a business is to put something out into the market that represents your product in some way, represents how people will engage with your product in some way, as quickly as possible, as cheaply as possible, and get some real feedback on your product or service. A lot of us will sit on an idea because, we just don't think it's perfect yet. Right. And then we'll just continue, going back and forth in our head about how someone will react to the product if they saw it or what they would think. But the information that you get when you bounce your ideas up against reality versus the information that you get when you bump your ideas up against your own mind is so much better. It's just much better information. And so strategically, that's the information that you want, because then you can iterate from that idea or from that feedback into a better solution. And what will determine whether or not Bear Health becomes the best solution for solving health in the Black community is not going to be because I'm some genius that came up with an incredible idea. And not to say that we shouldn't leverage genius and stuff like that in any work. Like there is genius out there and sees and can see things that just the world doesn't see, and definitely leverage that. But I like to rely on things that I can control, or at least do all that I can with what I can control. And so what allows for startups to come in and blow past legacy companies is that they are testing more ideas against the problem that they've identified in the market that they're trying to solve a problem in than their competitors. They say you need 10,000 hours to become an expert. It's probably more related to the number of iterations that you made on an idea or trained on a skill. And so my goal And my goal as a founder, as it relates to this problem, is to talk to more people with the problem than anyone else and test more ideas against those problems than anyone else. And the outcome of that is that I will come up with the best solution, or our team will come up with the best solution. Not necessarily because we're the smartest people in the room, but again, we've refined and refined and refined the idea more than anyone else. And so that's what we're working on, as a company.